Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hammer the Over podcast. I'm your host, Austin Groff, alongside Ethan French. This is episode 9, and as always, we got a lot to talk about. First, we're going to start with college football. With a lot of upsets that happened this week, we saw Oklahoma lost
Again.
again.
Back-to-back
Yeah,
losses.
which I think they're overrated. Spencer Rattler, overrated. They lost to Iowa State, and then we saw another upset. TCU upsets Texas.
That one wasn't that surprising, though. Texas looked pretty shaky against Texas Tech 2 weekends ago. TCU lost a close one to Iowa State, and they were able to get it done against Texas, so yeah.
And then we also see Tulsa beat UCF, which is a big win for them. And Mississippi State lost as well after coming off their big win the previous week.
Two other lower-ranked teams, 25 Memphis, 24 Pitt, also lost. LSU got a big bounce-back win, as did, did you talk about Arkansas?
Yeah. They beat Mississippi State, right?
Mississippi State, everyone was on the hype train, came out. Costello threw for 313, only one touchdown, a little less impressive game. They struggled and lost to Arkansas, so that was another big loss.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia absolutely steamrolled Auburn, which I personally thought was going to be a really good game. I thought Auburn had a chance to win that. It was in Georgia, so that was definitely a little tougher, but Bo Nix just did not show up for a large part of that game, which is reflected in the score. I mean, Georgia beat them handily, 27 to 6. Auburn was never really in that game.
Yeah.
So it was tough. Alabama also had a defining win against number 13 ranked A&M. So yeah, a few big statement games for those teams, Alabama and Georgia.
Yeah, it was unfortunate because I had Oklahoma covering. I thought they were going to come out and destroy Iowa State.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a big bounce-back game, too.
But obviously we saw not, and they're probably not going to be close to making the college football playoff now. Leaving the door open for Oklahoma State, who had an impressive win last week. They won by like 30, I believe.
Yeah, against Kansas.
Yeah, that's true. But
probably the worst, FBS football program. So yeah, that wasn't really very impressive. But yeah, I also agree. I think the door's open for Oklahoma State. They definitely don't have. I don't know their full schedule, but they're going to have a few of those games where they can't screw up, like the Oklahoma game. It'd be a shame if they, Oklahoma's already 1-2. It'd be a shame if Oklahoma were to upset a team like that and bump them from the college football playoff.
And then looking into the next week's game,
there's a lot of great games.
Yeah, the big primetime one. College game days, Miami versus Clemson, number 7 versus number 1, both undefeated.
I think this is going to be a phenomenal game. Miami and De'Aaron King, that offense has looked electric, and Clemson's the number 1 team in the nation for a reason. Trevor Lawrence is still a stud. They had a closer game against Virginia this past weekend, but I think this will be a great game. The line's currently at 14, which, part of me says that's a lot, but, if Clemson was to really just show up and say, look, we are this number 1 team, I think they could steamroll them. So I think that should be a great game to watch, very entertaining. But aside from that, we have a lot of other great games on the slate. Auburn, Arkansas, we have Arkansas looking for a bounce-back victory, and Auburn looking for the bounce-back. Arkansas coming off a big upset win against Mississippi State. So that could be an interesting game. Georgia, Tennessee, that's a 3 versus 14 matchup. It's in Georgia again. Based on how Georgia played that Auburn team, I expect them to steamroll Tennessee. However, Tennessee's not a team they should overlook. A few other big games. Texas, Oklahoma. What do you think about that game, Stin?
I don't know, because Oklahoma is
OU's
just
currently favored.
Oklahoma's they're -2 favorites, which
Um,
is crazy. Yeah, I haven't watched Texas yet, so I can't really talk about them. I've seen Spencer Rattler just be awful. They're 1-2. Like you would expect them to be better this season. They were very hyped up, and I think they just need to start winning games. Like they've got to win literally every other game if they want to win the Big 12. I think.
yeah, I agree. They're definitely have their backs up against the wall, and even if they were to run the table and win out and win the Big 12, I don't know what kind of respect the committee would give them, being a two-loss team and to two unranked opponents. We're not even talking about they lost a close one to Texas or in Oklahoma. They lost to Kansas State and to who was the last one? Iowa State.
Yeah.
Uh, we're talking about two unranked opponents, so they definitely have their backs up against the wall. This could be a point for them to turn it around. I never like to hate on OU just because I feel like their offense is so dangerous they could just explode. Um, Texas is 2-1, but has looked kind of shaky with a loss to TCU, and I don't know how they ended up winning that Texas Tech game, but
Mhm.
two shaky games for them as well. So the two other games I'm looking at are also at 12 o'clock. We have number 8 North Carolina versus number 19 Virginia Tech. Um, North Carolina had a really close one against BC. They won 26-22. I was a little surprised by that game. I don't want to, downplay Boston College, but I think North Carolina is a good program. And I had expected that game to be kind of a blowout, and it wasn't. Virginia Tech also had a closer win at Duke. They won by 7. So two very interesting ACC matchups this weekend between Clemson, Miami, and then this North Carolina Virginia Tech game.
Yeah, and shout out to the ACC. Everyone was judging Clemson last year because they didn't have any competition. Now they're facing Miami, which is going to be.
Miami, they're going to play Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame's finally back after having a little break because they had that COVID scare, but they're playing against Florida State at 7:30, so they should easily take care of that game.
Yeah, Florida State is a bad program.
So that's
Just
basically everything for college football. You want to say anything else before I segue to something else?
um, no, I think that just about covers it. So yeah.
All right, so moving on, we're going to talk about NBA next. The NBA Finals is now on Game 4, so it's going to be happening tonight, the day we're filming it. And we saw the Heat take a game on Sunday. Now, it was interesting because the Heat did not have Dragic or Bam, and Jimmy Butler went off for 40 points. That's basically the only way they're going to win the series is if Jimmy Butler plays like that every game, which is not going to happen. The Lakers just honestly, it could have just been a rest game for the Lakers. They're resting up the win in 5 now. And AD got into foul trouble, so that's another reason why it was like a dominant Heat win. The Lakers did come back and made it closer at the end, but then the Heat pulled away just because of time and score. But French, how do you view this series panning out?
Um, I don't. I had kind of expected the Heat to win Game 3. The Lakers, they've won all 3 of their playoff series in 5 games. I don't think this one will be any different. I don't want to disrespect the Heat because they're a very good basketball team, but they don't match up well against this Lakers team, who is easily the best team in the league. Um, so yeah, I see this panning out. I see the Lakers winning 2 more. The Heat won by 11, but that was, Austin talked about that. That was an Anthony Davis who only scored 15. His plus or minus was minus 26. Battled foul trouble, had 5 turnovers. LeBron had 8 turnovers, and you can't expect them to turn the ball over like that. And
Mm-hmm.
it took a 40-point triple double from Jimmy Butler to get it done for them. So yeah, I'm still riding the Lakers in 5 here. but I definitely think if Bam is to return, I think these last two games will be interesting, but I still like Lakers in 5.
What do you think about the spread tonight at -7.5?
I personally think the Lakers will cover that, and I think they will do so fairly easy. And by fairly easy, I mean I think they win by 14 or so because I don't know. LeBron has clearly been, I've said it before, I'll say it again. LeBron's been on a mission. I don't think he's going to take that loss lightly, especially with him struggling in that game. So I think they'll come out rejuvenated. They'll come out looking sharp, and
Mhm.
I think they'll cover pretty easily.
Yeah, we also saw big games from Markeith Morris and Kyle Kuzma. They each had 19, combining with 9 threes. They shot right above 50% from the three-point line, which was really impressive for them. Just those two combined. And then LeBron obviously has been short of triple-double almost every game. He had 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists. So he's still playing like an MVP candidate for this series. I've heard people saying, like, do we question LeBron's greatness if AD wins MVP? But I don't see how AD wins it after that performance from that game.
From game 3?
Yeah, the last game. Well, because he was in foul trouble, but still, like, in the game before, AD had 32. He shot really well from the field, but LeBron still had more
LeBron
points,
had
assists, and
33, yeah.
rebounds.
I don't know. I think, I don't want to, like, AD's a great player.
Mhm.
You very easily could make a great case for him to be the MVP of these finals. However, I don't. I think LeBron needs AD, and I think AD needs LeBron. They're both kind of, they're mutually benefiting from this, and it's hard to say. Like, I don't think, in terms of most valuable player, I think LeBron is the most valuable to him. I'm not saying AD isn't valuable to him, but when you look at LeBron's ability to pass, his ability to play defense, I'm like AD plays good defense, but we see LeBron playing Jimmy Butler. We see in the series before against the Nuggets, he's stepping up to guard Jamal Murray. He wants to be that dude, and I think he is that dude for him. So I would not, even if AD was to win this, I would not question LeBron's greatness because that team doesn't win that finals without LeBron.
Mhm. I also agree. And then let's move on to NFL now. So
There's not a whole lot to talk about the NBA with just down to the finals.
yeah, it's unfortunate now that NBA is going away, but hopefully we get to talk about college basketball here in the future. Starting with NFL, some big notes. It is Eagles-Steelers week. I'm an Eagles fan, and French is a Steelers fan, for you guys that don't know, so we're going to be talking trash to each other the rest of the week, but I am not seeing a victory coming out of the Eagles after watching how well the Steelers have been playing. They're still undefeated, even though we saw the post moment of their game against the Titans, so they're going to be extremely rested and well prepared for this messed up Eagles roster right now.
Yeah, rough break for you guys with wide receivers again being injured.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Steelers have definitely had some issues with the Eagles. I know the Eagles smoked them the last time they played, but
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think the Eagles' offensive line has struggled mightily.
TJ Watt's going to eat us up.
The Steelers' defensive line, the Steelers' pass rush is the best in the NFL. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no way around it. TJ Watt, Bud Dupree, Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt. You're just not going to find a better crew. I think that defensive line will eat the Eagles up, and I also agree. I think the Steelers cover 7. I don't think it's going to be like a 20-point rout like some people are expecting. I'm expecting it to be a little closer, but I like the Steelers to cover.
Yeah, I also agree. I think it's going to be a close game just because of this rivalry. I'm going to take the Eagles +7 just because I'm an Eagles fan. But, like, that's not really a lock. I'm just going to take it anyway. But like you said, I think honestly it might be a low-scoring game with the Eagles going against the Steelers defense. The Eagles defense was last week against, excuse me, because they were able to get that pick six from Nick Mullins, which was nice, but at the same time that backup came in and shredded us, which was crazy for a third string to do against our defense. But like you were saying about T.J. Watt and the Steelers defense, Carson Wentz is just not good under pressure. He just folds up and falls over and takes sacks rather than throwing the ball away, which is he can't do against the Steelers. That's going to kill us. But it was nice to see Carson Wentz gain his confidence a little bit back. Some people were saying, he was playing well against his critics last night or on Sunday. It was a decent game for him. He had some really nice scrambles and rushes, which was good to see. And he looked a lot better, which is promising. So hopefully he's gaining his confidence back. We saw Doug Peterson bring in some plays that their former offensive coordinator used in Frank Reich, because Wentz was more used to that play style. So it was nice to see that rather than throwing these new plays at him. Look at what Frank Reich's doing on the Colts right now. They're 3-1. So he's a great offensive coordinator, and Wentz is definitely missing him.
Yeah. Shout out to the Eagles getting their first win on Sunday Night Football against the 49ers. There's a few bigger games. Not bigger game. Bigger games, I'd say, this past Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
A few things I definitely took away. The Panthers beat the Cardinals.
Big win.
I thought the Panthers were going to be better than what people expected. I'm not saying they're a good team, but I think this Cardinals team is pretty overrated. After week 2, they were 2-0, beat the Niners. They looked great. Everyone was on the Cardinals train, and since then they just have not looked very good. And I'm kind of back on the not on the hate train, but I think we're definitely overestimating this Cardinals team. Kyler Murray, I think part of that is him needing to take the next step. I think he took the next step in the first 2 weeks, but he hasn't. He did throw 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions this week against the Panthers. However, he was 24 of 31. 24 completions, pretty decent amount, for 133 yards, which is that's 4.3 yards per completion, which is definitely nowhere close to the number you want to see. Maybe 10's a stretch, but you can't be checking the ball down 4 yards every time and expect big things to happen. They've also struggled to get Kenyon Drake going. He ended the season really well last year, but had 13 carries and only made 35 yards of those 13 carries against the Panthers. So
yeah,
that's definitely something to look out. The Cardinals struggling. I have a few other takeaways. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that game, Stin.
Yeah, I was going to mention Kenyon Drake and how he's been struggling this entire season after being hyped up at the beginning.
So yeah. A few of the other games I noted, the Browns and the Cowboys. So being a Steelers fan, I'm gonna say the Browns are overrated. But I'd be lying if I told you they didn't look pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
They got Odell going, as much as I hate him. And yeah, so it was definitely an impressive victory against the Cowboys. Cowboys looked like they were going to have a shot to come back there. Maybe, I feel for Cowboys fans because, that offense should just, it should click, but it doesn't. They have so many superstars, and, they were only able to score. They put up 14 in the first quarter, but after that, they didn't score until the fourth when they were down 41-14. So, you want to see more consistency out of them. I didn't think the Cowboys were that good of a team, but it's definitely a disappointing loss for them, especially being at home too. But yeah.
Some of my takeaways from this week. Well, first we also saw Bill O'Brien got fired from the Texans. They're now 0-4 after the Vikings got their first win. And then Eagles are somehow winning a division with their first win, which is crazy. And then there's 6 undefeated teams left. Well, we saw the Titans and Steelers didn't play. We did see the Bears lose to the Colts, though, which was a good win for the Colts.
Yeah, but I don't think the Bears are legit, if
Yeah.
I'm being honest. I saw, you know, Nick Foles, everyone thought, he led that miraculous comeback. They thought, Nick Foles was good, but Nick Foles is not. Anyone who thinks Nick Foles is good is just playing themselves because he's not a starting quarterback in the NFL. He doesn't deserve to be. He's a great backup. But, he does not deserve to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's not that good. You have anything else? I have a few other games I'd talk about.
Yeah, so Tom Brady, I want to talk about him. He was like he had a slow start. He threw that pick 6 and he looked kind of awful at first, but then he went off to throw for 370 yards and 5 touchdowns and a high-scoring game against the Chargers. And also, I want to talk about Joe Mixon finally going off for the Bengals. Bengals look good, impressive win over the Jaguars, getting their first win of the season, first win for Joe Burrow as a rookie.
Yeah, for sure. Joe Mixon he looked really good. I don't know if that's just the Jaguars' defense, but yeah, it's definitely good to see him get going, especially because I have him in fantasy. Saints got a bounce back win against the Lions. It was a little bit of a close game there, but a win's a win for them, especially without Michael Thomas. They're still looking a little off. Seahawks continued their win streak. They're now 4-0 with another win against the Dolphins. Going back to the Buccaneers-Chargers game, I know Tom Brady's the story of this game, but I'm more impressed with this kid, Justin Herbert. He was throwing like that kid. He has such an arm. He was making his one throw. I don't know who it was to. I know it was to number 83. I don't know who number 83 is. Let's see here. I can't.
It's also crazy, too, that game was as close as it was, considering the Chargers only had 46 rushing yards.
I agree. But Justin Herbert threw an absolute dime fading away off his back foot for a 50-yard touchdown. It was a beautiful throw. He's looked really good in his starts. He was 20 of 25 for 290, 3 touchdowns and a pick. I was definitely low on him. I did not think he was going to be that good of an NFL player. He could still struggle, but his first few games of his career, he looks like a stud. Another takeaway from that game, Austin Eckler is hurt pretty bad. Looks like he'll spend a while in the IR, which sucks. Because I have him in like 3 fantasy leagues, but that's aside the point.
Yeah.
The other game I wanted to talk about was the Rams-Giants game. Giants made that an 8-point game. It was an ugly game. 17-9, the Rams win. They're 3-1, but I don't think the Rams are all that great, if you ask me. I think they should have been able to beat that Giants team by at least 20. And I bet them to cover. I believe it was 13.5, but they had nothing going for them. So that was a tough look for them.
It was weird. Like, their run game, Darrell Henderson had a good week, and then they just didn't give it to him. They were giving it to Malcolm Brown, which I didn't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't like teams that run like a 2 or 3 running back system because one of them gets going and then I don't know. I don't understand that.
I feel like it's easier for a guy to get going if you just keep feeding him. It's so hard if you're just going to keep changing it up.
Yeah, I agree. Looking forward to this upcoming Sunday in the NFL. To be honest, there's some pretty bad games on. That being said, I think there are a few interesting ones.
Hey, French, at least we got a decent Thursday night game this week.
What is it?
It's Buccaneers and Bears. I know you've been complaining about how bad they've been.
Gosh, because they give us the 2, like, Thursday night football games suck. Every last one of them. They all suck. That being said, though, aren't the Thursday night games on an incredible over streak?
I believe they are.
Um, I just know that a lot of these Thursday night games we saw last week, the Broncos and the Jets, who everyone thought was going to be a disgusting, awful game to watch because we had some dude named Brett Rypien starting at quarterback. They combined for, what was that, 37 and 28? They
Yeah.
went way over that.
It was like 40, I think.
Yeah, the over-under on this Buccaneers-Bears game is 44. I think the Bears, I question the Bears offense, but Tampa might be able to put enough points to cover that over. So I'm definitely looking at that for this week. A few of the games we have, though, are the undefeated Bills against the undefeated Titans in
Heck of a game.
Tennessee. That should be. I think it should be a decent game. I'm not a huge guy on the Titans. I'm not that big of a believer in them, but
I love the Bills.
I do too. I like Josh Allen. Their defense has looked a little rough, but yeah, no, that should be an interesting game. We'll lose one of those undefeated teams. The Raiders and the Chiefs play in Kansas City. I think this will be a good chance to see whether or not the Raiders are legit. They came off another loss. They are now 2-2. I'm not expecting them to win this game, but I would I would definitely give them props if they were to make it like a one-score game. Aside from that, there's just a lot of bad football games. Cowboys and Giants play this week.
Go Giants.
Seahawks and Vikings. So yeah, some ugly football. Texans and Jaguars. That is disgusting.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm looking at my picks. These aren't like I said, they're not like certified picks, but I already had the Eagles +7. Just because I'm cheering for them against your Steelers this week. Two other interesting games I like. The Browns and Colts is a decent game. The Browns are at home, so I am going to take them +3. I will really like that pick after seeing what they did last week against the Cowboys. Even though the Cowboys' defense has been horrific, but I feel like the Browns at the same time have been doing good things this year. So I'm going to, even though Nick Chubb's out now, Kareem Hunt's still a great running back. And then the other game I was eyeing up was the Jaguars +6.5 against the Texans. I feel like it's a lot of points, especially since Bill O'Brien just got fired. And now I trust Minshew. Like, I feel like he's been doing good things this year. They came off that loss against the Bengals last week in a tough one. But that's just a bad game, which is why I feel like the Jaguars are going to make it close. Like, I don't see that being like a team blowing out the other team. I see that being a close game.
what's that? The Jaguars and Texans game?
Yeah.
I also agree with that pick. I think Houston has definitely looked rough, but the Jaguars have not looked incredibly strong themselves. So I like the Houston +6.5 pick. I'm also obviously rocking with the Steelers -6.5 or 7. I'll have to see where my book is at on that game. Definitely like the Steelers to win that. Definitely think they'll win by more than one score, but probably less than 2 scores. So somewhere in that happy medium 10-point range. Aside from that,
I honestly
man,
wish that game was the primetime game. The Eagles and Steelers.
yeah, I also wish that was a primetime game. Another game I'm kind of intrigued with. I've gotten burned by the Cardinals the last few weeks with between parlays and just straight picks with the Cardinals. They play the Jets this week. Jets are a pathetic team. Honestly, they're so bad. The line on that is 7. I don't think that's unreasonable. I think the Cardinals will cover that in, I guess they're 2 straight losses now, looking for a bounce back against a pathetic Jets team. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking at here. I'm definitely intrigued by the Browns +3. However, I would love to see the Browns lose. So yeah.
I just looked at another game that I like. There's the Saints versus the Chargers, and It's at 7.5 right now, so I might take the Chargers plus 7.5. I like that.
I think the Chargers plus 7.5 is a good look. I think there's a lot of these games like
All these games have big spreads. None of them are really close. The only
the
really close ones are the Bears
Seahawks and
Falcons.
Vikings. The Vikings aren't that good of a team, but the Seahawks don't play good enough defense to dominate anyone. They score a bunch of points, but their defense does not back them up enough. So, will Seattle win the game? Yes, I think they will. However, Minnesota plus 7 is a pretty intriguing pick. I'm also looking at Giants plus 9.5.
That's a lot.
Man, the Giants are actually I don't like that anymore. They're both bad teams, but it's in Dallas, rivalry game. I'd hope the Cowboys bring their A game.
Daniel Jones is gonna torch the Cowboys defense.
Yeah, I don't really know about that one.
Yeah, I know. That'd be funny to see though.
But yeah, I think that's about where we're at. I also talked about that over in the Thursday night game. I'm gonna have to go through and look at some of these overs again. I think the over in the Steelers-Eagles game is pretty reasonable. 44 right now. What do we think? Maybe like a 27-17 game? I guess that is 44 on the head.
Yeah. The prediction I had right now, because I'm actually writing an article for it right now for my one club. Originally I had it at 24-17 Steelers, but I might reconsider. I don't know. I think that 44 is like spot on. I think it's gonna be right around that number, so it's gonna be a tough choice.
I guess that's kind of their goal.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah. Any other last notes you want to talk about here?
Nah, that's pretty much everything from me.
We saw another pretty injury-heavy week. Eckler, Chubb. Looks like Julio's gonna miss some more time. So that's unfortunate. Definitely hope these players stay healthy and yeah.
Yeah, it seems like injuries are still being a problem across the league. Devontae Adams is, I think, officially coming back this week. He said he didn't want to play until he was 100% healthy, so that's good news for the Packers to get him back. Even though they are 4-0, to have him back, their offense is just going to be even better.
I agree. So yeah.
All right.
I think that just about wraps it up.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. This is Hammer the Over, episode 9. And happy betting. Make sure you always hammer the over, and we'll see you guys next time here on this podcast. Peace.